Kayak anglers of the internet, welcome back to the Advanced Kayak Angler podcast with myself, Dan Perry, and my co-host, Kurt Smith. What's up, dude?
Man, we got some storms rolling through here. Little old Cincinnati.
Oh, bad ones?
Like the tornado warnings and stuff are going off, man. So I'm sitting in my basement. My studio's in my basement, or my office is in my basement. So I feel kind of safe.
Well, hopefully you'll be all right, or at least make it through the show.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been fishing. I fished Pickwick. It sucked. I did okay. I just wasn't on the right. Like we were talking about before, I need a new area. Tennessee Kayak, Bassmaster, Tennessee Kayak, Bass Nation, great event. Steve, all that good stuff. I just sucked. Good fish. I caught some good fish.
Good lake to fish. Pretty lake, man. I like Pickwick.
Good time, good event. Love the lake. All that good stuff. Just need to find a new area to fish clean. So I was happy with it. Did okay. Just middle of the pack,
So are you close enough you can just drive to it, like day of?
I did. It's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's kind of borderline, right? Yeah. To drive to day of, right? I feel like.
Yeah, they're in Gunnersville's just over that, like 2, depending on where I'm 2.5, depending on where I'm going to fish. It's so long, it can just be inconvenient to get to, but usually North Alabama, I can get there in about 2.5 because I'm, north central, middle. I don't know. Middle central north.
Middle central north.
Something like that. Like just north of the middle, right in the middle. So about 2 hours from Tennessee River stuff.
Yeah. Damn. Lucky.
Yeah. But I wish I was closer. Like where I live in Hoover, I'm an hour from the Warrior River, an hour from pretty much a bunch of the Coosa River, and 2 hours from Tennessee River, but there's no water where I live. Except for the Cahaba River, and that's like, them creek goes like that, but it's got plenty of fish, but it's
like is it a real skinny river then?
Yeah, oh yeah, real small, like actual creek, and it goes through the city, so it's pretty polluted. But, yeah, it's all right.
Well,
Yeah, it is what it is. Don't drink. Just if you get any cuts, make sure you come home and really clean them.
You clean them out good.
Yeah. But all right, what are we talking about tonight?
So, we got something interesting to talk about, I feel like, and I don't think I've seen another podcast talk about it. Life after fishing the national trails. I don't think I've heard anyone else talk about it, and we're going to dive into it tonight with two guys who have both fished the national trails and who both have kind of like pulled back from them. Not that they don't fish. Well, maybe one of them doesn't fish right now, but, let's bring them on and we'll hear their stories.
Here we go. We have Nate Green and, oh shit, I forgot, Jake Harshman.
How's it going, everybody?
What's up, guys?
Why didn't you change my name? Let me change my name.
Well, you're the one that has to do it.
I thought you could change it.
No, that's on you.
It's still America here, Jake.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. All right. So Jake, I know both of y'all. Nate, you've won a lot of tournaments. Jake, you've done really well. I know you won Seminole. Dude. Seminole. You won Seminole. I hate that place. My body just rejects saying it.
I love it. So does
Kurt. I'm a fan of it.
But yeah, y'all both done really well on national scene, and you kind of step back. What brought you to that decision? Where are you at? What are you doing? All that good stuff. Nate, we'll start with you, man.
All right. Well, it's a combination of factors that happened with me. One is I own my own business, and so a lot of the time that I was spending fishing, I was pretty much putting my business on the back burner, and I got to the point where I really couldn't do both well. I also have a mom with Alzheimer's, And so I've been having, as she ages, I've been having to take more care of her. But a lot of it just came down to just burned out by it. You know, I think I tried doing both Hobie and KBF full time, and I did it in 2019 and 2020, and it would just burn through my cash reserves, and I just got tired. Um, and then there's like the mental aspect of it. Uh, you'd be on this epic body of water, and you find a fish, and you couldn't enjoy those fish because you're practicing. You're saving those fish for tournament time, right? And so here you are, you found a mother lode, and you're like, well, I better back off of here. I caught one good fish, and I can't hammer them, even though I really want to hammer them. And then you have the thought all day: is somebody going to find that spot? Is somebody a competitor? Is another boat going to pull up there? Am I going to have that spot to myself on tournament day? And you know, I dealt with it pretty well for a couple of years, but I got to a point where that just wasn't fun anymore. And then there's the aspect of there are certain ways I like to fish. I like power fishing, I like jigs, and I love topwater. And I like fishing my style, and I know that there are times where I need to adapt to the bite and get out of my comfort zone. But if I don't like fishing that way, if that's not enjoyable to me, then what am I doing? And it worked pretty well for a couple of years because I had that competitive spirit at the time. And just the day in and day out grind of tournament angling and having non-angling friends getting together like, hey, we're doing a big party this weekend. You want to join us? And no, I'm going to be, you know, wherever that weekend is. And then having a bad tournament that weekend and seeing pictures of my friends having fun, it just wore me out, you know. And so I gradually stepped back. I think my last KBF tournament was May of 2021, and my last Hobie was on I think it was Santee Cooper in 2022. And then I did the team stuff for a while, and that was great fun. That was a great change, but my competitive drive for angling just abated, and I just decided I'd rather just go back to fishing by myself or fishing with one person and just being quiet about what I catch. I catch a big fish, I don't take a picture of it anymore. You know, I try not to even take it out of the net. You know, I look at it and go, oh, damn, that's another big one. And just let it go and just enjoy simply going back to angling the way I used to fish 10 years ago.
You know, one of the things that I think a lot of people just really don't understand out there is when you tell them you're fishing 2 national trails, right? Especially in 2019 and 2020, KBF trails were very spread out, and they were very much like the Hobies where they were very spread out. So you were really the amount of just drive time, you know. And if you, let's say, you know, and how many tournaments do you think you did in those in 1 year? Like 20?
Oh, so, you know, not only, you know, 2 national trails, but I was running a full-time local trail in Virginia and part-time fishing a tournament trail in North Carolina too. So I went from about February to October, I was fishing 3 tournaments a month, and 2 of them were nationals. And so that left like 1 weekend. Yeah. And I would fish that weekend too, because that would be the weekend that I would go to a home water and practice doing new stuff.
Yeah. So it's go ahead.
And my home water was 2.5 hours away too. And so that's the other thing is I can't tell you how many days from like 2017 to 2021, I can't tell you how many days I was up at 2 a.m. every morning to fish. And that got old. I remember the first time I told my wife, I'm like, hey, it was a Saturday. I'm like, I'm going to go fishing. The alarm went off. I turned it off. And then I rolled back over and I woke up. I slept into like 6:30 in the morning, and it was glorious. I hadn't seen, I hadn't slept into 6:30 in years. And that was just the greatest thing.
You know, and I feel like life, you know, people forget it's not just the time too. It's the time away from your business or your family. Like you're, you know, taking care of your mom, as that increases, that puts more pressure on you to stay home.
And more pressure on me to have a good tournament.
Yeah.
You know, you're not,
That's a big one.
you're not, you know, it morphed into going out making, you know, side money, lunch money, whatever you want to call it. You know, it turned into, I got to do well. I got to do well to make these numbers work. And I think everyone can pretty much say that every national tournament is usually going to cost about $800 to $1,000 for that weekend, between entry fees, gas, food, lodging.
Man, you're back a little bit on inflation, man. It's now like 1,000 plus, man.
Okay.
Per tournament, man.
So you know that was using, you know, 2021 numbers. And so, yeah, that was when gas was, you know, $2 a gallon. And now you travel and it's going to be about $3.50 to $4 a gallon. And lodging now, you know, is probably unbelievably more expensive. So, you know, what I've developed out of this and out of this journey, I mean, it was an amazing experience. You know, it was like living the rodeo is how I coined it. And a lot of my favorite road trip songs that I listen to going fishing are like George Strait's Amarillo by Morning. You know, like everything that I've got, it's just what I've got on. And that's sort of how competitive angling feels. And after going through that ringer for a number of years, the amount of appreciation I have for anglers who not only still do it, but excel at it, you know, it blows my mind. Like the Christines, the Russes, and, you know, that's just in the kayak world. You know, when you start getting into MLF and bass, what these people go through to be top competitors in their field is astronomical. So many people don't appreciate it.
Yeah, the rigors of it. Other sports are more physically demanding, but I think the people don't appreciate how much of a grind it can be to fish national trails. You know, and the mentality it takes to keep up on that, because you're kind of a vagabond, man. I mean, I like my wife. I mean, you know, I do. I like my wife. Yeah. I like where I live. You know, I like my dog. I like spending time there. Yeah. And I can totally sympathize with your you know, taking care of your mother, you know.
And that's just part, you know, that's just a function of it. You know, it's the whole, it's all the factors. You know, I remember before I even had to put my mom in a nursing home, I had 3 bad tournaments in a row in 2021. One, Kurt, you remember when I lost my phone at Dardanelle on day 1, and that was a long drive home from Dardanelle. You know, losing an uninsured $1,000 phone with everything, with my life on it. And then I had, it was just back-to-back tournaments where I'm like, what am I doing? You know, it's no longer. We did have a lot
of fun at Dardanelle, though.
Well, we did have a lot of fun at Dardanelle. That sushi place was off the hook good. I mean, I still can't remember another better sushi restaurant than that.
Yeah.
And you know, and I've had some amazing times. I've met some amazing people. I've been to some amazing places. It's not all bad. I mean, it was great. It's just, it got to the point where I had to make a change in my life. And I want to retire at some point, and I want to be able to fish every day and not have the pressure of having to cash a check to be able to fish every day.
Yeah. And that changes it too, right? I mean, because we all got into fishing because it was fun. And then when we start doing these tournaments, you know, it seems to be a lot of it. A lot of people take it to be like, I need to cash that check. And that changes things, you know, because that becomes more like a job then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And jobs generally aren't fun.
I think that can be part of it too. Like whenever you get, you know, for people that fish nationally, you go to all these events, you do well, you know, you get a couple sponsors, things like that. Maybe they give you a little bit of money, but it's like there's no, for our sport, for the except for just a few people, there's not like a there to it. It's not like if you excel, you get to the highest, to the best you can be of somebody who's competitive. Every national event that they go to, you would be higher in the Angler of the Year standings, and you're doing well. There's no big payday there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for almost everybody except for, you know, a couple of people.
Yeah, like 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
And golf is like that.
There might be 3.
Golf too.
Golf is the same way. You look at the mini tours and the PGA tours. The same 5 people win, and then you have half the field is trying to make it to the weekend to get a check, and half the golfers are, you know, bunking up in you know, flea bag hotels. Some are sleeping in cars. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I think you could probably say that about a lot of sports.
Yeah.
That the average person can participate in, that there's a lot of people who are doing that. I feel like golf, there's a few more people who can make a living at it than kayak fishing per se.
Or fishing in general. I had a friend that told me that he wanted to get into professional angling, and I told him he would be best served just going to Hollywood and trying to be an actor. Like that, you have a better chance of making money being an actor than you are going to be professional angling, I think.
Yeah, unless you're like a Milliken or something, and you have like a social media side to it, which is totally different. You know what I mean? Like you have like 2 avenues to pursue or something. You know, I know for myself, you know, having pressures like, you know, last year I had a dog die, right? And then within a week of that dog, it was like the best dog in the world too. Within a week of the dog dying, my wife had a scare that her cancer came back. And it was like months of tests before we found out that it didn't, right? It was all good, but it was just like months of worrying about it. And in that time, it kind of changed my perspective a little bit on doing the national trails. And I know I pulled back a little bit from doing as many, you know, because I was like you, Nathan. I'd try to do 2 national trails, you know, and I couldn't do every one of them, but I would probably do 5 of the 6 or 9 of the 10, you know, and it's hard. It's really hard. I found that the traveling to be wearing out, but the positive side is going to all these amazing places like Dardanelle. I'd probably never have gone to Dardanelle. Like if you said, "Hey, Kurt, let's go to Dardanelle," I'll be like, "What?"
Yeah.
What?
You know,
no. Why would I go there? You know, let's go to Czech or something, you know. But, you know, I come to love Dardanelle and come to find out how much I like the lake, even though I've never cashed a check there. I've been a little close and had a couple opportunities, but it's just been one of those places that I've really liked and have a lot of good memories for. I mean, the sport's so amazing and fun, and we get wrapped up in it that we kind of forget that, you know, it's kind of like the rest of life. It's a process, and it's just a part of our life. It's not our whole life.
Yeah. You know, Dardanelle is a funny story about Dardanelle, is that it's such a weird lake.
Yeah.
Like it has this weird personality that I never really was able to figure out both times there, but I figured it out just enough to catch some fish, but never left it going, oh my God, what an amazing body of water. And I think that's why it makes it such a good tournament lake, is that it's a hard lake to fish, and you know, it's a test. You know, it's not going to be a slam fest, so it really separates the wheat from the chaff. Like the best anglers are going to have the best luck on Darnell, and everybody else is going to really have to learn something in a hurry.
Well, you know, that lake has multiple faces too, depending on how much water's in it, and whether the water's backing up or going out, or because that lake just changes on the fly. Like it loses a foot or two like instantly. It's just such an interesting lake, man. I mean, it broke my heart. I caught I hooked into 4 big fish like on back-to-back trees, and they all came off right at the end of the day. And then I went back there the next year. We go there, and the water is like a foot lower, so all those trees are not into play. It was like that 1 foot of water difference made the difference for like this whole area that I was like so psyched to go back to. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get my revenge. And man, when I saw that, I was just like, oh God, man, really, you know. But I kind of like that. These are some of these highs and the lows that I appreciate about the sport. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that it's hard, but that's why I like it, because it's so hard. You know?
Yeah, and one of the things that I really got addicted to was figuring it out. The first day of the tournament, you figured it out, and it was just a massive adrenaline rush for me. Like, yeah, you see your name climbing the leaderboard. You're in a position where you're going to either place or cut a check, and that's just an unbelievable feeling to experience. I love that, and just knowing that I put it together better on one day than all these other incredible anglers. That drove me for a long time.
Jake, how about you, man? Where are you at with it?
Well, I mean, for a lot of the same reasons that Nate pulled back, I also pulled back. But so I started fishing KBF in 2018, 2019, kind of cutting my teeth, seeing, how I fit in and what I needed to learn and what I needed to get better at. And then 2020, I hit the tournament scene just really hard with the Hobie BOS and some Bassmaster and still a KBF. I fished 7 BOS events in 2020, including the TOC, as well as 1 Bassmaster. I fished the first ever Bassmaster down on Logan Martin. And I also fished KBF trail, 1 KBF trail that year. And I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot to do, in 1 year. Yeah. And I, a lot of that was traveling. That Hobie BOS, they came to the Susquehanna, so you can kind of take that one off the list, but everything else was pretty daggone far away. It took a lot out of me, and the mental prep with it as well. The mental prep aspect was one of the things that I liked probably the most, was not being there and being able to look at maps and look at water and do research. Like, I really thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of fishing. 2020, 2021, I still tried to do as much of that in 2021 as I could. But after that, it just became, with the state of the economy, it became impossible to pay for a house and put groceries on the table and then still travel, 5+ tournaments a year. And if you're not doing 5+ tournaments a year, your chances of winning AOI or getting to the TOC are, they're just not great. And the prize is always the TOC. When you get to the TOC, the Hobie TOC, in my opinion, is still the truest form of a championship in kayak fishing. I don't think anything else comes close to it. That was the goal.
Hang on just 1 second, Jake. So some of the people who may not know who are listening to this, the Hobie TOC is the top 50 or 60 anglers for the whole year, and then they duke it out, and then it's just them duking it out for the championship.
Right.
Just
you have to get there based on
Yeah, you have to qualify
Right.
for it, and only 50 or 60 people are making it.
Yeah, it
Like,
was
I
like
think
the
the years
top
you're
three
talking
and
about,
every.
it was 50, right?
Yeah, it was 50. 2020 and 2022 or 2020 and 2022 were the years where I went to the TOC and it was 50. So, and, you know, and to that point, you had to finish in the top 3 of any event that you competed in, or you qualified based on points. 2020 and 2022, I was fortunate enough to make it to the TOC based on qualifying by placing in the top 3. I had won Lake Seminole in 2020, and I came in 3rd behind the Minor brothers in 2022 on the Susquehanna. So that's basically like winning. So,
The year of the gizmo.
yeah. So, but, it was, it's just tough economically to try to make it. The other aspect too is, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm a bit of an asshole. And I don't really get along with a whole lot of people, and that's by design. I like to stay by myself in a lot of places. Like I don't like to have the outside influence. I don't like to have the party crowd. That's not really for me. I don't really enjoy that aspect of like the nightlife. Like if I go to a fishing tournament, I want to go to bed at like 8 or 9 o'clock because I'm waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning. And, a lot of times when you're sharing a house with people, that's very difficult to do.
Well, you have to pick the right people, dude. I mean, yeah.
I understand that. You do have to pick the right people.
Because we are a diverse group of people. Some party, some stay up really late. You make a lot of
we never were a party group. I mean, we all pretty much crashed by 9, 10 o'clock.
I never got invited to the Kurt Smith's houses, so I wouldn't know what those are like. I wasn't cool enough to be a part of that group.
I just pirated on other people, man.
But no, I mean, it was just, really tough economically, especially once everything started going up,
Yeah.
Post COVID, when everything, just skyrocketed in price, it was very difficult. And, some of the controversial stuff too also turned me off to the competitive fishing aspect. And what I mean by that is there's been some high up names in kayak fishing that have been implicated in some ways. And unfortunately, it seems like maybe not all rules apply the same way to some same people, at least from my perspective. And that was another aspect that really kind of left a taste in my mouth that I didn't like on the competitive side of things.
So the drama.
The drama. Yeah.
The drama that unfortunately seems like it doesn't even matter. Like if you're fishing out of a boat on shore,
it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what sport it is. It doesn't matter how you do it. There will always be somebody that pushes the limit or breaks the rule and to try to win money. Anytime you incorporate money in something that's joyful, someone's going to end up ruining it. And, I'll tell you, getting back to the whole thing that one of the things I loved the most about preparing for these tournaments was sitting here and doing the research and finding, how can I find the highest hole that there is on this lake? How can I do that from Pennsylvania? If I'm looking at a lake in Alabama, how can I find the highest hole? How can I find the place that's going to have the least pressured fish? How can I get there legally? How can I do these things? That legwork being put into it prior to the tournament was in large part it had a lot to do with my success that I had on some of these tournaments. And then whenever, they come out with rules like designated launches and stuff like that, that's all gone. I can no longer use my creativity. I can no longer use that tool. And now I'm forced to go fish with everybody else out of the same launch. I hate that. I want to go to a lake and not see anybody. I don't want to, like, I love you, Kurt, but I don't want to go out and see you while we're fishing. Like, I want to be as far away from you as possible. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way that I enjoy it. And when you take that away from me, there, like, half of my enjoyment goes away. So, you know, those are the main reasons why I kind of pulled back, and I'm only doing stuff locally. And now I'm helping run the local trail, and hell, our local trail is paying out $1,500, it seems, to every tournament. So, like, for the first place is getting like $1,500.
Well,
so
that's a big payout, man. That's a big payout.
It is. And that's, you know, I'll put it to you this way. If we get 37 to 39 people signed up for any of our events, first place is guaranteed $1,000. So, you know, helping run that series. And then we go to some pretty amazing bodies of water here locally. You know, we have the Potomac, and we have the Upper Chesapeake Bay. We obviously have the Susquehanna River. We have, you know, lakes that are within our reach, like Lake Anna and Smith Mountain, that we could go to. I mean, we've toyed with the idea of going to the New River. Like, we've done some things locally here that have really expanded our footprint and increased our growth. And you know, and I feel a lot happier helping grow that than I do, you know, preparing for months on end to go fish any lake across the country.
Is that MAKBF?
Yes, sir. Mid-Atlantic Kayak Bass Fishing.
Cool.
So we have a leadership group of 5 of us, and we never get along, but that's why it's great to have 5 of us, because we can all get into a group and argue and come up with the best product. So
you know, and I think there's like a common theme here, and to a lot of people I talked to, because some people didn't want to come on this podcast tonight. And I think a lot of it's like just the cost of things, right? You know, I mean, it's $300 for the Hobie events now, entry fee. Gas is, I mean, depending where you're at. I mean, it's like 3 something around here, up or 3 something for gas.
Yeah.
And man, just staying places. I mean, I remember when I first started doing these, it was like $600 to $800 for a week. I mean, that was all in, man. That was like gas, food, everything, $600 to $800. And now it's like, it's $1,000, not counting food, minimum.
Right. Yeah.
Minimum. At least for me, you know, because I'm in Ohio, so I have to drive a little bit. Jake, you're kind of the same way. Nathan, you're kind of the same way too. I mean, Virginia's not super close to stuff, right?
I'm actually really close to a lot of places where I'm at. Like,
how are you?
I am right off the Interstate 81. So the Susquehanna is a 5-hour drive for me. I can be on Chickamauga at the Hiawassee within 3.5 hours. I can be in Guntersville 4, Dale Hollow 4, Santee Cooper's 4.5, Lake Norman is 2.
Well,
Nate's in a pretty amazing place.
So you know, from the standpoint of being able to fit, and that's why I did all the national tournaments, is because they were so easy for me to get to.
Yeah.
And that was just fueled an addiction. But you start fishing all these tournaments, and even though they're within a reasonable drive, the wear and tear and mileage on my vehicle will accrue in no time. And you think about the replacement. So I've got a really nice Tacoma. Well, I've got 300,000 miles on it now. If I want to replace it, I'm going to have to buy like a $55,000 new truck.
Yeah.
And I don't want to burn the miles on my Tacoma. I want to keep it for a while, so I don't have to, you know, a $800, $1,000 car payment.
Now they got the stupid little sticker in the back. I hate like the TRD sticker they have now. That like a $55,000 truck, and you put this stupid sticker on the back, TRD, and you know, it looks like you can go buy that at the store. You know,
well, you can, man. Anybody can be a TRD there. Right?
Yeah, I mean, Kurt has a TRD sticker on his truck too.
Big TRD sticker, man. Big TRD.
That's all he uses is a Ned rig.
Oh God, here we go, man. Here we go. All I use is the Ned rig.
That's
And
Ned Rig
I think
specialist up there.
2019, I added it up and I put 40,000 miles on my truck that year just for fishing. And I burned
That's a
through.
lot of miles, man. That really is. And for you living close, that's a lot of miles.
Yeah, and so I don't know what everybody else is putting on vehicles, and then that's why the high level Bassmaster Elite Series. That's why they're buying new trucks every year.
Yeah.
You know, they probably are putting 60,000 miles on a truck in a year.
Yeah, easy.
And so they need to do that.
I turned in my lease and I was 5,000 miles over my limit. So I don't know how much I put on in 2020 and 2021, but I know when I turned in my lease, I was significantly over my mileage.
Yeah. I mean, I know in 2018 I bought my car and I think it had 35,000 miles on it, and now it's like 175,000. I mean, it's you just rack up the miles doing these things, man.
Sure do.
Because if you get the trails, you might drive all the way out to Dardanelle twice, or you might drive out to Wisconsin twice. I mean, those are hauls right there, right? You're gonna go down to Florida at least once.
Yeah.
You know, if you do 2 trails, if you did Bass and Hobie, you're in Florida twice. You know,
or you do Florida, and then the next month you're driving to Texas.
Yeah, right. Because that's how it was this year. It was like you were in Texas one week if you did Bass and Hobie, and then you were in Florida for the next week or a week late, or like with 1 week in between in Florida.
Can you guys still hear me okay right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I switched off the screen so I could look at my Tourney X. I'm looking at 2020 in February, Lake Seminole, Georgia from Pennsylvania. In March, early March, it was Logan Martin Lake in Alabama. Mid-March was Lake Norman, North Carolina. June, Kentucky Lake. I did the KBF on the Susquehanna. July was the Mississippi River out in Wisconsin. August was on the Susquehanna River again. October, Coosa River Chain in Alabama. And finished that up with the Tournament of Champions on what year? That was Fort Loudon and Tellico in Tennessee, and turned that right back around in 2021 and did Lake Seminole, Georgia again. And then that same month we did Watts Bar Lake, which Kurt, I think you won that one, didn't you? Or come in
I got
top
third.
three.
Top 3.
Third. And then, did the Lake Hartwell and did the BOS on the Susquehanna again, did Santee Cooper. I mean, in that 2-year span, for me, that Chickamauga, trying to see what else. There was a couple other ones. So there was one on the Shenandoah that I did. But just the amount of travel that in that 2020 and 2021 was just absolutely insane. And I'll say this. So probably the absolute worst drive ever for me, and I would do it any day that you ask me to, is Caddo Lake. Worst drive ever, but I would go back there anytime you ask me to go. That place is amazing.
You're right. It's the worst drive ever down there.
It is the absolute.
Well, last year, BOS was here in my backyard on the New River, and Kurt and I, we were talking about fishing that together, and I had everything up, I had everything entered, and there was a glitch with Tourney X for some reason, and you and I, it was like an hour left to submit. Yeah. And we're like bugging the hell out of AJ, like, hey man, what's going on? He's like, oh, I fixed it. And then I kept hitting refresh, and you hadn't entered it yet. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? You're like, I don't know. And I'm like, I mean, I knew this where I was going to fish. I didn't even have to practice. I mean, I knew where I was going, and it's a 40-minute drive for me, and I still couldn't pull the trigger on it. I still couldn't get myself to do it.
It's a mental thing too, man. I mean, people don't realize that it's like there's a huge mental aspect to it too. Like especially when I talk to my friends who, I mean, most people who tournament fish understand it, but as soon as you talk to people who are outside of that, they just don't. They're just like, oh,
they can't relate.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're fishing, you're having fun, and it's so relaxing. And I'm like, God, man, have you not?
It's not relaxing.
Yeah. You need to come.
There is zero things relaxing about tournament fishing. No. Honestly, tournament fishing brings out the absolute worst in me, because I've had this happen. No, so I say this because I know my own faults, right? I've had this happen where I've been out fishing in a tournament and someone I know has like either come by me or waved to me or said something to me, and I have completely zoned them out like they don't exist. I'm just like gone. Like so the second year that we were down at Lake Seminole, I was fishing where I had won at the year before, and I said seen another kayak coming down the way, but they weren't fishing. They were just kind of motoring down, or not motoring. They were kind of paddling down. And I was fishing a bank, and I was just completely locked in on what I was doing. I was sitting there skipping shit up under trees, trying to get it as deep in there as I could. And apparently this kayak had came down past me, and the person in the kayak was like trying to have a conversation with me, and I completely just didn't acknowledge anything that they were saying or doing. And they came to me after the day, and they're like, "Hey, are you mad at me?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, why would I be mad at you? And they're like, well, I was here, and I know this is where you won at last year. And whenever I tried to talk to you earlier, like, you just ignored me completely. And I'm like, nah, bro, this ain't about you. This is me. This is how I am in a tournament. Like, I didn't even recognize who you were, or didn't even recognize the fact that you were having a conversation with me. I just zoned you out completely. And that's not a good thing. Like, it's not a fun way to be. It's not, I don't know. I mean, it happened this past weekend. This past weekend I was fishing on my home water, and I come out from the islands where I was fishing, and a good friend of mine was fishing there, and he was kind of going up the way, and I guess he waved to me, and I didn't even acknowledge the fact that he existed. And I made a beeline for my next thing. And we had a conversation at the end of the day, and I was talking about what I was doing. He's like, yeah, I saw you. I tried to wave to you. And I'm like, bro, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, we all look alike out in the water anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, our kayaks all are one shade, either one of two different shades. We're all wearing pastel colors. I mean, we're all wearing hoodies. I have a hard time distinguishing who's who when I'm on the water. And I don't even pay any attention either.
I had to figure it out. I had to download an app because my iPad didn't have calculator on there. But if you had a $55,000 truck, and let's say it got 300,000 miles on, like, that's the life of the truck is 300,000 miles. If you were
it's a Tacoma though, so it's going to last longer.
Yeah, I think it's called amortization for a accountant. That would be $7,150 of the value of the truck has been taken away from kayak fishing. And if you drove that many miles at $3.25 a gallon, it's $12,300. So it's $19,450 of cost. It costs you just in gas and vehicle to fish a 40,000 mile trail or in a year.
Yeah. Dan, if you could point me to this $3.25 per gallon gas station, I would greatly appreciate that.
That's how much it is in Alabama.
I was
well, that's not how much it is here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I get 365 here because Pennsylvania has an absolute outrageous gas tax. So,
and your roads still suck.
They
fucking do, man. It just sucks.
Listen, I'm pretty sure the people that govern Pennsylvania they learned how to govern from the city of Baltimore. I think that's the only thing I can come up with. Some of the most corrupt politicians I've ever seen in my life. So
they're everywhere now. But
yeah,
so
no doubt.
The cost, I don't know what it would have been in 2019 or 2020, but that's what it'd be right now with a higher end Tacoma. That's and
just
that's crazy.
Just out of curiosity, what's your favorite place that you guys have ever fished nationally?
We just had a show on this. You should listen to the podcast. the number one we came out with was Susquehanna.
Well, that's for me, that's easy for me to say, but I'm gonna give Kurt Smits probably a heart attack right now. One of my favorite places that I've ever been on the National Trail was East West Harbor, Ohio.
I can see that, honestly. East West Harbor.
That place was
until they started killing the grass, and I think it's changing a little bit up there. But that is man, there are a lot of fish in those harbors.
Yeah, it's going to be either going to be East West Harbor or the Mississippi River. I thoroughly enjoyed the Mississippi River.
Man, Mississippi was hard. But, I would enjoy the Mississippi with a motor.
You don't like current, though. You don't count.
There's weird. So much current up there, man. It's ripping the whole – no matter where you go, it's ripping. It's like 6 miles an hour this way, 4 miles an hour that way. It's just like, God, man, I can't just, relax for a second.
Mine fishing a college event down there and the KFL is Okeechobee. I love that lake.
I've never fished Okeechobee.
It's whenever you get on it, because there's really no houses except for at the very southeast of the lake. They have a harbor down there, a marina. But the rest of the lake is totally secluded. So it's like being in a nature preserve or something. It's awesome. Yeah.
What about you, Nate?
So I've been thinking about that. I would be dumb if I didn't say Chickamauga, but
right.
I almost want to say Guntersville, though. I don't know.
It's an amazing lake too, man. It really is.
So I've done 3 tournaments on Chickamauga, and I cast a check on 2 of those 3. So I'm probably going to say Chickamauga. I would say Guntersville second, and the Susquehanna would be third. The Susquehanna is pretty unreal. If you're a smallie angler and you like moving water and you've never fished the Susquehanna before, you're missing out on something special. It exceeded my expectations. I don't know why I don't fish there more. It's not that big of a drive. I have family in Hershey. For the past 20 years, I've had a free place to stay, and I've only fished it 1 week.
Hershey Bears, baby.
Do they smell like chocolate?
It does smell like chocolate here, yes.
Yeah,
I've been up there. If you live there, maybe it just seeps into your pores.
It's a pretty disgusting smell, actually. Making chocolate smells terrible.
My wife's grandmother lived right across the street from the Reese's factory.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's not a good smell to smell them making chocolate. It's just, I don't know. I don't even eat chocolate, and I live in Hershey. But I can tell you right now, I know Kurt Smits' favorite place to fish on the National Trail is hands down the Susquehanna River. He absolutely loves it here.
It is not.
He has begged and pleaded every National Trail to come here multiple times a year.
I would like just to come in and go fun fishing on the Susquehanna.
And why haven't you?
Because I need you to take a day off and come fun fishing with me, Jake.
I will take every day off to come fun fishing with you, Kurt. You can bring your wife, and she can go and enjoy Hershey Park. She can enjoy the Hershey Spa, and you and I could go chase giant polluted brownfish.
That sounds good, man. I'm going to take you up on that.
You keep saying that every year.
I might take you up on this fall.
So we are having the Native Big Bass Power Hour does come here at the latter part of October this year. That should be stupid. I mean, it should be absolute gangbusters. You just come here with a bunch of the tooth. Come here with a bunch of 6-inch swim baits and just absolutely get destroyed all day by big fish. It's going to be ridiculous. But
it seems like the Susquehanna right now is probably fishing about as good as it probably has been, right, in the past 10 years. Is that pretty safe to say?
I would say that yes. We have not had a major flood year since 2018. And with the no creel, like you're not allowed to keep fish between Sunbury and the Conowingo. These fish tend to get older and older and older. So you are seeing, I mean, look, this weekend, there was 225 anglers beating their faces in all week. And the leader still ended up with 187 inches after 2 days.
That was impressive to watch. I mean, I was blown away by the quality. And I mean, 85 2 days wouldn't even give you 50 top 50, would it? Or did it?
No. I don't know if a top 50, but so I know that I struggled a bit on day one, and I ended up with 92 3/4, and I was in like 20-something place.
Yeah, that's just insane.
And then day two, I struggled even more, and I finished that day with 86 3/4, and then I finished for the total for the tournament in 16th or 17th place. So, you know, I think Ewing, I think had like 93 and 94 or 95, something like that. Whatever it was to get 187 is what he had. But it's just like, honestly, if you come out here for a one-day tournament and you're not in the 90s, you're more than likely not getting a top 10. And if you don't get 2 days in the low to mid 90s, you're not even going to have a chance at winning. And I don't think you're going to find a fishery that fishes as good as the Susquehanna does in the time of the year that they typically come here. I don't think you're going to find one. July, August, you could come here. Pennsylvania, what just happened? Pennsylvania does have a thing where they close down the spawn from mid-April to mid-June. But I would say if you came here, if a tournament came here every month out of the year, March, April, you're going to need 100 inches to win a one-day. June, you could probably get by with 90 inches. July, August, you need 95. September, you'd be able to get away with 90. And then October and the early part of November, you would probably need 100 inches again. Close to it, because that's just that's what you're getting. There's a lot of 19, 20-inch fish here. So,
I mean, the numbers were, I couldn't believe it when I was watching it, man. At the end of it, it's just,
I didn't expect it after a whole week of 200 plus people being here. I didn't expect them to even still be eating topwater on Saturday.
right, because everyone's throwing topwater there.
Right, everyone's here with their ploppers and their choppos and every other variation of a topwater, and they still ate topwater both days all weekend. So
I think the reason behind that is that it's the current. Like, you couldn't do that to largemouth, but with smallmouth, they're opportunistic feeders this time of year, and so when it buzzes by them, they have one shot to go at it. And
So
I think that he's on their predatory instinct so much that they just can't help it.
partially, I agree with you. I do think it has something to do with the current. I think it has a lot more to do with the fact that this river is so shallow, and because they're such an aggressive predator. If you violate their space, I feel like a lot of times they slash out at topwater, not because they want to eat it, but because they just want to make it die. They don't want it to be there. And I think that's in a lot of cases, that's why you see, like, if you watch a lot of my videos, you'll see that I got smallmouth hooked on their bodies. There's a whopper plopper 130 hook, halfway back their body, and the other one's barely in their mouth. They're not hitting it to eat it. They're hitting it to just try to kill it. And I think that's mostly because of some of what you mentioned about the current. But I also think it's just the whole violation of their space, because I mean, the current's going to, if they're not angry at it, the current's just going to move it away from them and they won't have to worry about it. But they get so angry that it violated their space that they just lash out at it.
So we've got a stretch of the New River that is about 2 miles long. That is basically the exact replica of what you'd see on the Susquehanna. It's just ledge going all the way across, and it's fast moving water. It fishes the exact same way this time of year. I mean, it's the exact thing. All you need to do is have a buzzbait or a popper and just burn it. And you're going to get vicious strike after vicious strike. It's just funny what smallmouth do in current this time of year.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Something like that here. It's hard to catch a damn fish in Alabama.
It's getting a little tough around Cincinnati too. Largemouth and smallmouth.
We'll send Kurt Smits down there with a big TRD, and he'll catch them all.
I will.
All right. So anything else we're missing? Do you miss it? Do you want to go back and do it again, or is it just not right now?
No.
Or never?
I'll be honest. I'll tell you that I don't know if I will ever have the desire again to travel at the frequency that I did before. If the right fishery comes available and, gives me a reason to go to it, possibly I'll go. But I cannot sit here and say to myself that I will ever again have the desire to travel as much as I did in those first couple years with the BOS. The juice just isn't worth the squeeze. And I don't know, man. Like, I got so burnt out of it. I don't miss it at all. Like, if one comes to me or one comes close to me, I was really upset that I missed Cayuga this year, because I've always wanted to go fish Cayuga, but I couldn't get off work for it. Cayuga was on like the bucket list that I would have absolutely gone to that one if I could have gotten off, but I just don't know if it would have to be the right fishery at the right time of year to present itself for me to want to go again to it.
So I'm the same way, and there's other things like, so I'm going to Los Buzos in November, and so that's the lodge in Panama where you can fish out of a kayak for roosterfish, black marlin, broomtail grouper, stuff like that.
That's where that, right?
Is that what?
Where Fields is at?
Yeah. Yep. Robert Fields goes there. Yep.
Yeah.
Guide there.
And so I'd rather put my money into that. I would rather take my money that I would spend competing now and go try to find a big tarpon to catch. I would rather take that money and go to Guyana and catch peacock bass on top of the water. I feel like for me, I've been there, done that with competitive bass fishing. It was enjoyable. But that's just something I moved on from. But never say never. I mean, I may, you know, dust off the hog trough again, or the catch board now. And
Yeah, don't bring a hog
do
trough.
it. Yeah.
Don't bring a hog. You're
Yeah,
gonna
just
get
date
beat,
myself.
sir.
But yeah, I don't see myself competing nationally anymore, or even locally. I rather just trophy hunt, try to find something big, or just enjoy my time out on the water, catch fish the way I want to catch them, and come home and hang with my wife, and not have the, man, I lost this big fish. If I just hadn't lost that big fish, I would have made this amount of money. I'd be this much in points. She got tired of hearing it, and I got tired of saying it. I got tired of telling people about it. How'd you do? Well, there's this big fish. That got old, and I don't want to go back to that.
It's how our board's set up that way that it does that to people.
Yeah.
I would argue. I think it's like a lot of people get into it, and you experience it, and then you kind of want to move on to the next thing you want to do and challenge yourself with.
I would argue one point to what Nate said though about how, like, with the local stuff where he just wants to trophy hunt. I shouldn't say argue. I've kind of focused more of my energy on what can I do to get other people interested in this, involved here at the local level. What things am I good at that I can, somehow affect our local series? That's honestly, our local series this year has been probably the greatest feeling for me than even whenever I was going out and doing the national tournaments. Seeing our growth this year compared to last year over year. Last year we were averaging 35 people a tournament. This year we're averaging almost 70 a tournament. Wow. Seeing that growth from, previous years where we got $5,000 worth of sponsor money, and this year we got almost 12,000. Like that to me has been a huge, like, I feel a lot better doing that and devoting my time and energy to doing that. And then on top of that, coming up with an amazing local schedule that makes people want to come fish it. Like, that to me has been more rewarding than doing any of this national trail stuff. I don't, as far as, like, for me, it's tough for me to ever want to leave here because I live on the fishery that everybody wants to come to. Yeah. Right. So, like, trophy hunting and doing all that stuff, like, every time I go fishing on the Susquehanna, there's a potential, trophy out there. It's kind of like I've much more focused my time on how can I get other people involved in this, and because kayak fishing really at its core has made me a better person, even though the competition makes me an asshole. Kayak fishing in itself has made me a better person because I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people and make some really cool friends, and everyone here's, included in that group. So, but yeah, I don't know. The national scene, I don't miss it. I don't miss it.
Yeah, I do miss the people. Like, I miss Kurt. The Isaacs. We've had some amazing, fun, laughing times in Airbnbs. And I want to reiterate that there were fun times. It's just a mental grind and a sort of a financial black hole when you boil it down.
Kurt took me to an Italian joint one time, and then I was sick for like a week.
I remember that you were you were like slopping up some spaghetti or something, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have this. This is what I would get. Next thing you know, I got food poisoning. I'm throwing up in my kayak.
That was the gas station food you had for lunch.
I'll never go out to eat with Kurt Smits ever again.
Whatever, man. Whatever.
All right. Well, we appreciate y'all being on. It's been an hour. We want to be respectful of your time. I want to give you a chance. Shout out anybody you want to, your wives or whoever you want. Nate, start with you, man.
Well,
Shout out your business, man.
so my business is NR Green Resource Consulting. I basically broker timber rights throughout the state of Virginia. So I'll plug my own business, but I'll go ahead and still plug Appomattox River Company. They always kept me rigged up with a good kayak and any sort of warranty repairs, either to my Hobie or my Wilderness. They were Johnny on the spot the whole time. They do an outstanding job of putting people on kayaks. Anybody that wants to get a kayak from them, I holler at them.
Cool. Jake?
For me, man, it's Innovative Sportsman. It's a local company here in this region. Trey Leach, he's also a competitor on the trails, but he came out with an inflatable boat a couple years ago, and doing everything I can to try to help that man's business out, and making people aware of his product, that and honestly, it's not even just the kayak, it's the work that he does on kayaks. I would argue and say he's one of the best riggers in the entire country of kayaks. Trey's a huge supporter of the industry of the tournament trails, as well as just being a great human being. So,
and stands behind his products unbelievably well. Unbelievably well. I can't emphasize.
So if I can just take a couple minutes to tell you about how Trey and I became friends. I ordered my first rock guard whenever I bought a Torqeedo 403. And when I ordered the rock guard, I installed it and I stripped both screws out as soon as I got it. And I called him and I'm like, man, what the hell is this? Like, I didn't even put a lot of pressure. Like, it's not like I'm some super strong weightlifting guy. Like, dude, this product is junk. And he's like, no, he goes, I'm glad you called me. I had one other person call me before I sell the rest of these. I'm going to take them out of service because there's obviously an issue with the threads, and we're going to get it fixed. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, he's like, don't worry. He's like, I will send you the new products out. They'll be at your house in a day or two. And I was satisfied with that. And then I went and I did something, and I came back to my house and I found an envelope on my door with the parts that I needed from Innovative Sportsman. He drove an hour from his house in Maryland to my house to deliver me the parts because he was able to find them and bring them to my house. That way, if I wanted to go fishing the next day or later that day, I could get on the water. He didn't have to do that. Whenever he did that, I was like, man, like, this guy truly cares about his business and about his customers, because I don't know too many people that own businesses that would do that. So I was like, I called him up and I was like, man, I appreciate it. You didn't have to do that. And then from that point on, that friendship flourished into something where now whenever he makes something, he gives it to me to go try to break it. And that's what I do for him, is I try to break his stuff. I'm his resident breaker. So if it needs broken, he gives it to me and I go out and I test it. So, but yeah, Trey is a fantastic human being, and I give him all the glory that he deserves, man.
There you go. I also want to shout out, we usually don't do this, but the other week we went to Bankhead Lake, me, my wife, and my son. My son was in the back of my Hobie Pro Angler, and I was towing my wife and my Jackson U-Pick, and the weather got up at the end of the day, and my Z-Pro lithium battery, to be able to take my family out like that and to power it down 100% there and back, and to be able to get back before it got too bad. I really enjoy having a quality battery, so I appreciate them. All right, we appreciate y'all being on, and we'll see you again next week. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Later.
Appreciate you having us.